month's conference. This is the first of many sessions over the next couple of days, and I look forward to seeing you all throughout this. I'm Jerry Pressman. I have the pleasure of organizing this event, and now I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, who is Zain. I'll tell you a bit about Zain. The topic, first of all, is from ROI to ROE. ROE is return on experience. So all of us need to gain some experience on a daily basis. We learn something out of this. And what we're going to do is Zain's going to be spending about 30 minutes with you. We'll have some opportunity for Q&A. We'll then go into the Q&A thereafter. Zain is the Chief Executive Officer of Keynote Marketing, which is the largest independent marketing service. 1,300 employees, 24 offices. Same we have new members in some. Digital, direct, data, local promotion, shopper marketing, transaction-driven network. So for those of us in the response area, this is right on track. Zain is also the author of the book Brand Rituals, How Successful Brands Bond with Customers, which has a different approach to building brands in the digital environment. So at this point, let me introduce Zain, and look forward to hearing what he has to say.
Thank you, Jerry. You know, normally you sing for your supper. Jerry made a promise to buy me lunch after this, so that's why I'm here. How many of you from New York? Oh, big group. How many of you from the West Coast? Okay, so that's two great souls flew in yesterday on a Sunday to get here. Hopefully you get some value out of this. Okay, so you know, when Gary and I talked a few months ago, and as he was pulling together the response track for the OMMA conference, he said, look, you know, the big issue that we all deal with right now is how do we do ROI, okay, especially as the world's getting digital, as social seems to be on everybody's kind of to-do list and stuff like that, right? And I think, how many of you have been talking about doing ROI on your programs and how to deliver ROI on every program that you do? Are all of you who raise your hands in marketing some way, shape, or form? How many on the client side? 4, 5. Okay, how many on the agency side? Okay, so you know, it's fascinating. Not as many clients tend to worry about ROI as they think about digital as the agencies do. Because the clients at the agencies will point to and say, hey, go figure it out for me, right? But you know, what I want to talk about is from ROI to ROE, right? I mean, I think as the world shifted, you know, the definitions that we all started with in marketing have kind of shifted. And I don't know if anybody's taken the time to kind of point to what should be the right definitions. And I'm going to talk about, you know, how to move from ROI to ROE. And if you move there, why it's no longer about a marketing issue, but it becomes a potential business opportunity as you focus in on the customers, right? I'm going to take the next 35 minutes, quickly run through my thoughts on that, and then if there's any questions, we can do that, all right? So fundamentally, ROI, right? Return on investment. Everybody, right? Okay. Anybody know when this term was invented? And by whom? Nobody. Okay, 1911. From a guy called Pierre S. DuPont, who created a big company called DuPont, right? That's who he created, right? And there was a guy who worked for him called Donaldson, who took the idea of, and he was a finance guy, right? Who framed this and fundamentally put this as a method to help DuPont decide where Pierre should put his money, okay? And so they came up with this very simple formula. Gain on investment, gain, right? Minus cost from investment, divided by the cost of investment. That's your ROI. Not very hard, is it? Right? Financial metrics that's been around for about 100 years. The fundamental simple metric that made General Motors the most effective and the largest auto manufacturer in the world for a period of time, because DuPont owned 22% shares in General Motors. General Motors was going bankrupt. They brought Sloan in. You know, Donaldson went and taught Sloan how to kind of use this formula, and then this became the formula. And us in marketing, somewhere along the way, decided we had to have it. 2007, advertising age, advertising weeks going on, advertising age reporters all over the place here. But you know, advertising age, which focused on creativity and advertising, turned around and said CMOs need to start thinking like investment managers, right? Now, investment people do not necessarily use ROI. but they use a construct called ROE, right? Gary says the return on experience, they don't call it return on experience, they call it return on equity, right? And so that also became one of the fundamental things that started in the world of finance, and that became part of our lives. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's think about when the CMOs were told that they have to think like investment bankers, and they have to kind of find ROI and stuff. What did they all start doing, right? They all started us creating charts like this. Right? Right? You know, I mean, if you look at it, actual versus predicted average monthly grosses, gains charts, response curves, you know, top deciles, bottom deciles. How many from the world of direct marketing? Okay, 4 or 5 of us, right? Indirect marketing, that's what we used to do, right? And that's what we still do, right? You know, and that's how the world works. How many of you have ever lived around a gains chart and had your life be defined by gains chart? Come on, Gary. You and I are old enough to have done that, right? Okay? You know, so this is what the CMOs end up doing. But the flaw that's happened with the ROI is this, right? It's fundamentally, historically been, from a marketing standpoint, just done one thing, drive acquisition, right? Because in traditional model of marketing was built around driving acquisition, right? Okay, we have to acquire customers. So ROI became an acquisition metric. And why? Because you know what? It was used with specific data that's available, right? Acquisition works that way. I got to go get a number of people. I got to afford to spend this kind of money. I'm going to go get X number of people. Once I've gotten them and the program's over, I can actually add and subtract and figure out, did I get the ROI? Then we brought it down by channel. Did direct mail deliver better ROI than print? Nobody can figure out TV ever delivers ROI, right? So that became the 50% of my budget is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. And that's what happened, right? It's all about transactions. It only happens at the end of programs, and fundamentally, where ROI becomes a pain, especially if you live in an agency or in a client organization, is you only get very fragmented views on the results of programs. You can't add it all. That makes sense? How many of us have been able to add up the ROI of every program and gone to our stakeholders and said, I gave you exact computation on, you give me $1 million to spend, I told you what you got. How many? Never. Doesn't ever happen. That's what happened with ROI. So ROI became a metric that we use, and if you think about the framework of marketing and the framework of how consumers think about it, right? They think about the world as, you know, either I'm building attitudes or I'm changing behaviors, right? I'm kind of creating relationships or I'm driving transactions, right? ROI is lived in the world of behaviors and transactions because that's the only place where what I do as a customer or a consumer or a prospect is what you can measure. Okay? But what doesn't get taken into account is how I feel, right? Because what I do and how I feel are two very distinct things that have to intersect for a business to be successful and a brand to be created. That makes sense? Right? So a brand doesn't just get created when you buy stuff, although it does, because you at least have some experience with it. But a brand also gets created when you buy stuff and you use it consistently and you feel the right things about it that makes the brand an integral part of your life. If you don't, it's one or the other, right? How many of you got a bottle of water from outside this morning? What brand of water was that? Sally? Local CBN, right? But she drank it. How many of you would only drink a specific brand of water? Nobody, right? You know, I mean, I ran the Evian business globally in one of my past gigs, and we worked so hard. We created the roller babies kind of work that, you know, went to the Guinness Book of World Records as a viral video that, you know, about almost 16 million people kind of saw and about 4 million people liked, right? I asked people, I go, what brand of water would you drink? Well, whatever they have, right? I guess Poland Springs, Aquafina, I guess, right? Stuff like that. So a brand doesn't get created unless you know what it is and you feel. So that's why, you know, when you create a brand and you create value, the customer has to experience the brand, the customer has to use the brand, customer has to engage with the brand, customer has to advocate the brand, and customer has to make the brand a part of their lives. That makes sense, right? Okay? Okay, so why is it important? Everybody remembers Sergio Zain? He launched a new book. He thought it was the best idea in the world. Guess what happened? Right? Everybody remember the story about the Gap and the Gap logo? Right? Fantastic. CEO, CMO get fired. Great opportunity. You know, CMO has now become the CMO of Target, just having fun, right? Okay? Okay, think about it. It's Tropicana, right? Spent $135 million to change all of the packaging because of the head of marketing, Massimo, right? Said, hey, we got to change it because of the whole thing. You know what happened? My wife, who was a big, huge Tropicana customer, said, no, I don't like this package. And she went online and they had to pull it back. Cost the business, cost Indra $257 million of write-off. Okay? Because when a customer engages, customer advocates, customer makes part of the ritual, they don't want things to change unless they change for the better and unless they change for a reason. Okay? My favorite one on the Gap, if you go online, is a logo that somebody created called Graph. Exactly with the same identity. And actually that looks better. And given what they were going through with the business, I think that was a sentiment a lot of people share. So my belief is if you want to move from ROI, which is not an appropriate metric for today's world of omni-channel connection, you got to go to ROE. But it's not just ROE in terms of return on experience, as Gary mentioned. It's first, you got to return on engagement. You got to engage your customers and make sure that they want to feel bonded with the brand. Then you want to create some experiences that drive that deepening so that you can get the return on equity, which is a lot of behaviors that put money in your pocket, if you're a brand, while they make them feel good about the fact that their experience is with us. Okay? So here's, I call it ROAQ because you know what? It's no longer a simple mathematical. I'm left brain, right? And so I think about it, and that's the principle that I brought into my book, which is about brand rituals, right? It's about how do you engage, how do you create experiences, and how do you do it in a way that builds equity not in the brand, but equity also in terms of the financial metrics that drive the business, right? This is a formula, and this is a model that I'll walk you guys through, so I won't spend too much time. But if you think about the two axes, the axis of engagement times experiences, if you can drive that on that line to a behavior that's bonded, you can create a lot of equity on the business and, in a way that drives value. Here's a brand. Right? I mean, if you just think about a brand ritual, if you think about an integration of engagement, experiences, and equity, this is a brand, right? Anybody who knows me well, or even kind of knows me now, knows one thing. It doesn't matter what city I'm in, the first place I find out is, does it have a Starbucks close by, so that in the morning when I wake up, I go. It's not just I gotta go to a Starbucks, right? I know, I love my Westons because they give me Starbucks coffee in there, but that doesn't do it. I gotta go to the store, right? Why? Because I have to get my venti, I have to have a double cup, it has to be white, okay? Only for me have they made white, the standard one flavor that they will never change, okay? Howard gets it, okay? Because I put a lot of money in his pocket, right? I have to have a sleeve, they wonder why 2 cups in a sleeve, but I have to line the sleeve up, I have to have 4 sugars and some half and half, and the color's gotta be the perfect brown. If I don't have that, my day doesn't start. But why is it that I stay in it, right? Because if you look at the model of engagement experiences, right? Every time I walk in, there's something going on. The flavor, the baristas saying hello. Some of them remember who I am, so when I walk in, they're getting my coffee ready. But it's all of the music that I can get. It's all of the innovations that they're doing, and stuff. But they do create engagement. They do create experiences. Have you seen the new thing that I just walk with my phone, right? In one of the desk doors by my house, you walk in, you scan the, as you walk into the door, they know exactly what your order is. They get it ready. I don't even have to pay anything. Okay? And when I go to drive-thru in my store, when I scan it, they also put my 4 sugars in and put my half and half in and get it ready for me. And they also have now learned to line up everything. I mean, I'm anal compulsive, so I have to line everything up, right? But if you want to get to ROEQ, and if you want to get to a brand with those 4 steps, step 1, you've got to get the right customers in. Okay? How many of you do acquisition marketing? Okay. How many of you also are responsible for retention marketing? So, a lot of companies tend to do acquisition in one place, tend to do retention in another, right? What happens, right? One of my clients, a big telco, has that same problem. They got one guy doing acquisition, one guy doing retention, and they always used to fight. Because this guy was measured on how many new customers they were bringing in, not the quality of the customer. This guy has to now retain them, and he's going, how am I going to minimize my churn when all I get is customers who are not likely to stay with me for long, right? And that company, about 6 months ago, changed the framework and gave one guy acquisition, retention, full customer on wireless and full customer wireline. Fantastic how the behavior changed. We no longer do acquisition in a way we used to do acquisition. Now we do acquisition in a way which looks at who's your best customer, What are the profile of your best customers, and how do I find people who look like that to come in through the early stage of the funnel? If you want to do that, and if you want to get them, you got to do something different. You got to deliver what I call a new value equation, right? Old value equation, everybody, math, right? Product features on the lowest price. If I'm Maxwell House Coffee, and I talk about dry roasted coffee for $3.99, Folgers comes in with Morgan roasted coffee for $3.95. Okay, and so Folgers sells, right? Or somebody throws in a coupon, right? Price was the factor that drove it, right? Now, in today's world, what's changed is product features will always be important, innovation will always be important, but two other factors have become more important. One is customer service. And customer service does not necessarily mean it's people out there serving you, but it's about the ability that if you have a problem with the product, that you can get a result. Okay? I tend to do this very frequently, right? If I have a problem about anything, I will get on my phone and send out a 140-character complaint. Okay? So I decided to kind of do this. One city I was in, I got my Starbucks in the morning at home. I traveled, couldn't find a Starbucks off Caribou, drank a Caribou. I don't think it was their fault, the coffee was horrible. Not their fault, I think it's my case. But I sent out a tweet saying, look, horrible coffee from this store, hashtag Caribou. 5 minutes later, I get a tweet back saying, look, we're sorry about this. Here's a mobile coupon. Go back to the store. If you don't like our coffee, that's fine. Go get some pastries. Go get something you want to make it right. Okay? 2 weeks ago, I had an issue on American Airlines. Like a lot of you in this room, I travel a lot. So, right? I had a problem. I did the same thing. I sent a tweet. I wrote a little small blog post. And next thing I know, by the time my plane landed, I had response back saying 2 complimentary first-class tickets, Continental United States of America, and 2 phone calls from the customer service. That's what happens when you're 10 million miles plus flyer. And you have and you have this, but the fact that they've connected everything down through the ERP to be able to touch me is that's customer service. Take it right. The other part is added value, right? The added value is what more can you give me in addition to the basic product features. Again, doesn't have to be electro product. John Deere does it very simply. They give you a cap. John Deere caps are hotter than the Ryder Cup caps, at least among Americans today, right? Okay. No golfers in the room.
Well, after yesterday,
Nobody wants to, it was disappointing. Okay. But again, and if you give them the 3, then it's no longer just about the lowest price. They're willing to pay you more as long as it's competitive, right? So example of that, Zappos. Anybody buy shoes from Zappos? Right? All our shoes come from Zappos. So if you think about Zappos, all of the stuff that they give you at the bottom, the thing that they got, right? So they've got the shoes. They're not necessarily the cheapest shoes anymore, right? But what they give you is free shipping. They give you free return. Right? That's customer service, right? They give you the bigger one is 365-day return policy. So they figured out, which it took Nordstrom about 2 years to figure out, that when my wife buys shoes today, she's not buying them necessarily to wear them this week or next week. She's buying them to wear them maybe sometime 6 months later when I take her out someplace fancy. Okay? Which I have to remember. When she buys shoes, I got to remember I got to take her someplace fancy. She doesn't like it. She still wants to be able to return it, right? And that's it. 24/7 customer service, not in real people. They respond to your tweets, right? But the most important part of the added value for them is happiness. We want you to be happy because you're not. Now, the good thing about Bezos is even though he brought those guys in, he hasn't done anything to screw them up, which is good, right? Because we still buy. Last year, from our household, we bought almost $1,600 worth of shoes from Zappos. Does that make us the best customer? No. Right? We are in the 70th percentile, right? So we're 3 deciles down from the top decile, right? Ford reinvented themselves fundamentally by becoming a premium car features in an economy car, right? So you can get a Ford Focus, and in the Ford Focus you can have all of the features of a BMW, right? That's added value. But the customer service has had to change, and so they reinvented the entire process. The best one here is this guy, right? Big guy. Always the low price, always Sam Walton, right? He wanted to say always the lowest price, as lawyers said no. Sam, you can't do it. So he bought the only thing I think he listens to lawyers about. And then they had to reinvent themselves 3.5 years ago to get there, right? Save money, live better. And this is what happened when they go from, product features at the lowest price, product features, customer service, added value. And how did they bring the added value? Organic foods, better branded food, product, all at a good price, but in a way that absolutely made an impact on people's lives. Let's hear a story from Diane in Wisconsin.
Dear Walmart, I have a family of 4. When I first had my children, I always wondered how I was going to adjust with the new expense of a child. Well, I've done my research, and as a parent, I know that I can make my dollar stretch further by shopping at Walmart. Walmart gives me one thing that's priceless: peace of mind. This is a great thing to feel as a parent, because the stress of worrying about your finances can cause a burden to the whole family. With Walmart's unbeatable prices, I can provide everything that my family needs and feel like a great mom. Shopping at Walmart has allowed me to set money aside for savings accounts, stretch my budget, and buy those nice-to-have items for my family. Walmart has helped me succeed as a parent, and they will continue to be a part of the success of my family. Diane from Wisconsin. My name is Christian, and I save people money so they can live better.
Yeah, I can save people money so that they can live better. It's a higher ROI. I mean, anybody shop at Walmart here? Okay, good, a few, right? The healthy for you tax that they put on, into the produce section. If you look at how they changed the produce section from the plastics that they had to wooden, boxes and stuff like that to make it natural. They've improved the quality of the merchandise. That's what they've done. They've gone from this product, basic products at the lowest price to stuff that's it, right? So now once you get those people in and you got your prospects in, that's an ROI method that you can create and actually measure to a certain extent. What happens to them? This is where engagement becomes an important part, and you actually get to magnify the interest that they have with your brand and create, attraction. And to do that, you've got to be digital at the core, right? Now this is funny talking to a group here which is here because it's all about digital, it's all about mobile, right? Everybody's kind of living in that world. It's fascinating how many people actually are not thinking about their programs starting from there, right? And so if you think about the world of marketing, we talked about, left, right, push, pull, right? You can tell, I like my 2x4. This is what happens when you can have a consultant, right? You have everything but gets into a 2x4. Precision-based marketing, which is targeted marketing, right? Branding, which is, a little bit more, less precision, but more emotive, if you will, right? And if you look at experiential, which is website, stores, customer service, where you can actually engage with people, and you look at dynamic, where you can act, you're transacting or you're engaging experiences with dual behavior. This is how we used to frame our programs. A right balance of things that actually got to the customer at the point in time when it was most relevant to them. We still do that, but you know what's changed? Is when you think about what the social ecosystem has created, it's actually taken everything out. There's no longer the linear purchase cycles that we used to have. It's basically become one of those things which looks like an EKG of somebody who's had, a couple too many cups of coffee, right? And so that's where if social comes in, and how do you use that as a fundamental framework to kind of, take brands and build brands and create a level of engagement so that people actually want to experience you and get you there, right? Samsung, how many Samsung phones in this room? Just one? How many Apple phones in this room? Go ahead. All right. Okay, so let me show you Samsung and how Samsung basically did this, not very long ago as a way to prove that just because you have mobility doesn't mean you got to be worried about how you use it.
Our mission was to demonstrate how tough the damage-resistant Samsung B2100 is. We did this for a live experiment on SamsungShakedown.com. We put 70 mobiles on a glass table placed high over a concrete floor and a water tank. Each phone had its own number, and the vibrators were switched on. 4 cameras filmed the mobiles and streamed it live to the site. Now people could call any one of the mobiles and try to vibrate it over the table edge. If your call caused a mobile to fall down, you wouldn't have mobile. As the lines opened, the buzzing sound of 70 different mobile tunes filled the studio. And one by one, the mobiles vibrated over the edge and smashed either onto the concrete or into the water tank. And of course, you could call the phones after they fell to make sure they still worked. Not one of the mobiles was harmed during the test. campaign was run in several rounds and created a huge amount of buzz online. Whereas Samsung B2100 used to be popular within certain industries, this campaign introduced it to a much wider audience, showed off the product's benefits, and entertained them along the way.
So that's engagement, right? I mean, you can measure engagement, how many people call, how much time did they spend, but how do you now connect that, right, to sales? And how do you connect that to an actual result that happens? So there's a lot of this kind of work that people do, we've done, stuff like that. But I mean, if you really want to look at the power of engagement as a way to drive traction, we all know this, right? I mean, everybody's seen Blendtec, Tom Fiction, right? This used to be a hot case a couple of years ago now. But think about 3 years business results, CAGR of 700%. Okay, a brand that was a generic private label brand that has become one of the premium brands in the home category. Okay, just all started off with this guy who was kind of doing golf balls, hiring a young marketing director who understood the power, shot the first video on a small thing, posted up on YouTube, and the iPad was 15 million, right? It was just unbelievable how people are actually going out and buying this thing because they're entertained and engaged, and it gives you a perspective on the brand. Okay? Anybody in this room do hauling? Anybody heard of the concept called hauling? Right? You've done it?
No, I've heard of it.
You've heard of it. Okay. So what this is a lot of young ladies. My daughter's 14 and a half, and she's involved in this. But it's when they go shopping and they find something cool, they shoot a video of it and then they post it on. There are about 260,000 hauling sites. A lot of them are sponsored by retailers and by brands. So if you're going, say for example, Forever 21, right? I wouldn't know it except that I pay a lot of money to them to go to my daughter. But Forever 21. She and her girlfriends go, they buy something, they try something on, they'll take a video, they'll post it on a website, and people actually go follow them and buy stuff. Okay, that's engagement. That's how brands have created engagement by using the customers coming, right? It's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, just go and take a look at a couple of these. It's great. The quality of the production is great. We've got a lot of young people who are passionate about the products they're buying and what they're trying out, and especially with homecoming season on to us right now, at least in Chicago. This thing is kind of just going crazy, right? And with mobility and stuff like that, it's crazy. But on the flip side, there is a downside. We all know about the Dave Carroll story and stuff like that, right? That Dave Carroll's a musician, Canadian musician. United broke his guitar. He made this whole song about United. He did 3 songs about yes, right? So I mean, he was he used to do weddings and small gigs and commercials and stuff. He's now become a internet magnet, right? He's got private equity, 4 private equity venture funds who funded his business called Brightpoint, which is about complaints that you have that you can actually put up out there and get them resolved. Okay? And look at the kind of brands: Hewlett Packard, Walgreens, Sprint, Coca-Cola. Why would Coca-Cola have to have a bright side? Well, there are people who actually drink the Coke and are not very happy with it. Like I wasn't happy with my Caribou coffee, right? And they can actually get a result. So engaging, going from both ends of the spectrum is an important part of how you kind of get the brand going and driving that return on that, right? But once you kind of, once you have that and when, you've got people engaged, you got kind of committed, how do you create the experiences that can actually keep the people in your franchise and actually get to more equity, right? It's about creating innovations experiences. If you are in a company, 94% of companies in the world, the entire focus on innovation is to try and create new things that can bring new customers into their franchise. Only 6 to 6.5% of the companies around the world do innovation that's focused around keeping the core customers in the franchise and keep getting them to spend more money. If you're in direct marketing, one of the things that you learn early on is don't worry about your best customers. They're giving you a lot of money. Okay, focus on the second best customers and see if you can make them better. Right? Bad idea. Go after your best customers because they still got a lot of money to do. Because we don't live in a polygamous environment, except when you're married. Right? At which point in time, it's too expensive to actually go. I'm sorry, one of them. I got that all wrong. When you leave a at 4 o'clock from home, right? Yeah, monogamous is fine, right? Because, when you go to polygamy in this country, the judges don't like you very much. So they, you go, but, and from a brand relationship standpoint, there's nobody who's just giving all of the money to the same brand, and so they get it. So how do you keep them? Innovation experience. Any Allstate customers here? Okay, only one. Okay. Allstate was struggling with Geico and everybody else, right? Until they basically 4 years ago, brought in the service of a consulting firm called the Cambridge Consulting Group in Chicago, a small boutique firm, and they fundamentally went out there and said, look, your best customers are frustrated with you because you keep on increasing the policy charges and they can't afford to have an accident, right? I was one of them. 10 years, one little problem, my premium goes up, and I'm going, what's wrong with it, right? They got that, and so their innovation now focused on keeping the best customers in the franchise and using them. And so they create things like accident forgiveness. If you haven't had a claim in the last 5 years, nothing will happen. They give you a deductible back, deductible rewards. If you don't have a claim, then the year will give you money off of your deductible. We'll send you a check back as a safe driving discount. All of the stuff that no insurance company did, they always took your money, never give you anything back. They started doing that. So their retention rates have gone up dramatically, but the more important part is, they were never able to build a financial services business. They've actually added almost 3 million new customers into the financial services business that are the insurance, property, and casualty customers. Innovation against your best customers can drive a much better return, right? Tesco is a classic example. Tesco is one of those companies that fundamentally looks at all the data and then looks at where the best customers are and what they're doing. One of the things that they did, and we did with them was, they were losing a lot of customers for a while, and not losing them, but they were losing ticket size. So this is 63 pounds a week, they started spending about 40. And we went to look at what's going on, and what we found they were doing was not buying certain categories. When we asked them why they weren't buying certain categories, they said because we were going to Whole Foods to buy those categories. I said, okay. We came back and literally created organic lines of food, not in a generic way, like, Walmart did, right? We just went in and created the specific places we were losing these people. We priced it at a penny less than what Whole Foods would charge, which would be higher than what we would otherwise charge. And we went from losing 23 pounds, every shopping trip, to actually increasing it by 9 over this. So 63, we went up to 72. And then when we launched a green card and gave them recyclable bags as a way, and gave them additional points for doing good behavior, okay, the spend has now gone up to 90 pounds a week, okay, from their best customers. That's huge, because that's all profit and return. And as Terry Hunt, who's created this program, says this in his book, you don't really know what behavioral change is. Genuinely important unless you can see it in action on scale, right? So experiences don't come out of what we call experiences by creating fun digital stuff. Experiences come out of people actually buying more product that are different certain needs. Ego, right? Ego, thick and fluffy. Thick and fluffy Ego changed the entire momentum for them in that category. Okay? If you eat waffles, frozen waffles, the thick and fluffy was basically a huge change, stuff like that. And then finally, if you want to kind of get them to experience, engage, but get to the equity part, okay, how do you do that? You just do that by doing what we do with people, right? Align with their values. Okay? You create bonds by aligning with the values that your customers share. Okay? And the values, fundamentally, this is a brand that's grown basically the values. If you think about, they're one of the stakeholders too, that they talk about as communities and the environment. Every board meeting, every executive committee meeting, they have people that are measured on what they do for the environment, for the community. And that's what gets it going, right? And the way it works very simply from a mathematical standpoint is, what does your brand believe in? What are the customers' passion? Where's the intersection? And then underneath that, how is it relevant in the category? Because a lot of people try to do a lot of nice values-oriented stuff. It doesn't really work. Timberland is a great example of how it's working. What kind of a footprint will you leave behind? And they give you exactly what you use. How much renewable energy, how much PVC-free, eco-conscious materials. All of their boxes are 100% recycled materials. And then they plant trees, specific number of trees based on what they use. And you know what? It's a great product. It's a great product that I feel good about wearing. Okay? When I wear it on weekends. Have you guys seen the Pepsi Refresh program? Everybody has that. I'll jump over the video because I promised Laura I'd get done on time. But it was one of those things where I was actually wrong. I thought this was like a bad idea, right? I mean, why would I care about a cola company trying to kind of create this community thing? It It definitely hasn't helped their business because the business hasn't gone upwards. But what it seems to have done is engage a lot of people given how many people are participating. You know, again, so this is again one of those, hey, okay, it's connecting with the values, but is it category relevant? I'm not sure. And because it's not category relevant, you're not seeing the equity turn out on that. The guy who knows how to make values relevant is this guy, right? He's made billions by connecting with your values, like giving you a massage on a flight when you go from Chicago to London on this plane, right? You know, nice massage showers on the plane, right? I mean, those are my values. I want to be fresh, I want to be refreshed, I want to feel good when I land out there, and he knows how to do it, and that's why he's made money with it, right? So that's what happens with brand ritual. That's what happens when you kind of create, you know, experiences, engagement in a way that can drive equity. And you know, if you get to that point, this is what happens. Real, I mean, this is real, right? I mean, the people who are tattooing it, I don't have not big enough, so they kind of rule me out, okay? Once I lose all my hair, I can maybe do that, okay? Or Walmart. I mean, even the guys at Walmart, one of the most beloved brands out there, right? And so that's kind of the fundamental framework of how do you go from ROI to ROE. And ROE is not return on equity, right, as a financial people. Not just return on experience.